What was your best, you're speaking to the manager right now moment? Back when I was in the Air Force, there was a base picnic. I was put on the crew to get things set up. The task was finished, and we were just standing around waiting for people to show up. A young-looking guy, turns out he was in his 40s, but legitimately looked 25, walks up and starts talking to us. He introduced himself as the new operations group commander and was a colonel select. He'd literally arrived on base that very morning and heard about the picnic. A couple minutes later, our boss, a major, shows up and walks over to us. He said, "Hey guys, I think the new OG might be here today. Be on your best behavior, because I heard he's a real asshole." We all stared at him in horror. The OG just smiled, stuck out his hand, and said, "Hi, I'm the asshole, but you can call me Colonel." I would love to know what happened next. This is funny. When I was 19, I was promoted to manager of the front of the house in this little seafood place I'd been working at since I was about 15. On the manager's day off, I'd be the only manager there. This woman used to come in and order the clam chowder about once a week, eat it all, and then claim it was made differently than the last time, and demand that it be comped. For some reason, the previous manager always did it, but it annoyed me that she was being rewarded for being dishonest, since we had the same recipe and followed it exactly since the place had opened. I was just waiting for her ass to try it on me, and finally, she did. I was the only manager there that day, and sure enough, one of the waitresses said she needed a comp for a table, and there was the cheap ass. I went over there, and she told me, "Last time, you had all kinds of vegetables in this chowder. I'm not paying for it." Haha. I was like, "Ma'am, we've been making that chowder the same way since the place opened, and you know it as well as I do. So you can either pay for it like a decent person, or I can comp it, and you are not welcome back here ever again." Cue her demanding to see the manager. I nearly burst out in an evil villain-style crackle when I informed her that she was looking at the manager. She tried to argue for a couple minutes, and then finally gave up, paid, and never came back. That would have been so satisfying. Customer was getting all rude about a coupon. Cashier called me over. Normally, I'd just let it slide and accept the coupon, but then she had the audacity to insult my cashier, claiming she was incompetent, so I denied it. She got all annoyed and demanded to talk to the manager. "Sorry, the manager left for the day, but the supervisor is here." "Well then, I want to speak to your supervisor," she hissed. "I am the supervisor," I said firmly. "This coupon is not valid." "Fine," she huffed and left her stuff at the counter, muttering about never shopping there again. Cashier was a bit shaken up, but I'm not very good at consoling, so I just said, "Screw her, we don't need her. You'll be better off not having her as a customer again." A salesman walked into the reception area where I happened to be. I ask him if I can help him, and he barely acknowledges my existence. A few more attempts and he says he wants to talk to someone more senior. At that moment, one of the staff members, who is older than me, the salesman immediately tries to flag him down and asks to speak to someone in charge. He points at me and says, "Well, the owner is standing right there." 10 years ago, I was a retail manager for Bath and Body Works. One day during holiday, a customer began going off on one of my seasonal employees, like psychotically screaming at her because we were out of peppermint twist body lotion. I walked up and asked the girl to go cover registers and that I would talk to the customer. Customer began yelling at me. After another 5 minutes of insisting it was in the back, her, "I want to speak to your manager." Me, "Miss, I am the manager on duty. This is a popular item. We have none in the back. None of our other stores in the area have any more. You are welcome to look online, but I doubt it is there anymore either. Have a lovely day." She turned purple and asked for our customer service number to complain. It was December 24th. I was invited to a birthday party at a remote acquaintance's place. She introduced me to her husband and tried to start a conversation by saying, "You two work in the same field." So the husband started to talk about his work, while I asked polite questions. Then he started to badmouth the competitor of the place he worked at. He would claim there was something shady about the company, how they would scam customers and cannot be trusted. First I asked where he got his apparent insider knowledge from, when he couldn't name a source. I looked at him and said, "No problem, buddy. Just take the opportunity to ask anything you'd like to fact check, as you are currently talking to the owner of the company." The conversations around us literally stopped, and a very awkward silence followed, which I ended by politely saying goodbye. Man, nothing like a time for the know your audience rule. I got a parking ticket a few months ago. When I was waiting in line to pay it, I started talking to the lady next to me. Apparently, she just got fined under a new ordinance for keeping her work van parked in the street for a month. She was ranting and raving about how the city has become Nazi Germany because of the laws like this. Those city councilors are bastards. How dare they? I quietly listened and nodded. Well, I'm on the city council, and I helped to write that ordinance. We have it in place because people like her keep their cars in front of people's driveways and make it impossible for them to pull out in the morning. When I went to the cashier and was greeted with, "Good morning, counselor," her jaw nearly dropped. I used to be a cell phone tech in the retail store. We weren't employed by the main company. We were contracted through another company, so our manager hierarchy was separate. I was the only tech on one night, which made me the acting tech manager. I am a woman. A guy came in and was immediately belligerent, wanting his phone fixed. Came up to the tech counter. The conversation went something like this. "How can I help you? My phone is broken. I need to talk to the technician. I'm the technician. What's wrong with your phone?" "No, I need to talk to the tech out back. I'm the only technician tonight." "No, I mean the guy in the back who fixes the phones." "I am the guy out back who fixes the phones. Why won't you let me talk to the real technician?" "You can't fix this." Open the window to the back to show him it's empty. "I'm the only technician here tonight. What's going on with your phone? You're being very rude right now. I want to talk to your manager." "My manager is not in right now. I'm the acting technical support manager. How can I help you?" "I need to speak to someone above you right now." "There's nobody above me available right now. You'll have to wait until tomorrow during daytime hours." "I don't have time for that. I work for a living." "So do I. As a technician, I'm not leaving until I talk to someone. I can get the store manager for you." "Yes, go get him. He will take care of me." "How freaking stupid can you get? That's what I wanted." "Okay, I will go get the store manager." I did. She was also a woman. "Who's this?" "I wanted the store manager." "I am the store manager, sir." "She won't let me talk to the technician," pointing at me. "She is the technician, sir." "Well, she can't fix my phone." "How could we not fix his phone? He wouldn't tell me what's wrong with it." "I don't know yet if we can fix it or not." To him, "What's wrong with the phone?" "It's not sending text. It's defective. I need a new one." To me, "Can we fix that?" "Yes. It's a known issue with the model. It just needs a software update. Should only take about 10 to 20 minutes. "Yeah, like software is going to do that. Will you let me try it?" "Okay, fine. Try it. But when it doesn't work, I want a new phone." Updated the software. It worked. "Okay. It's been updated successfully, and I backed up your contacts and photos so they're still all there. I tested the texting, and it's working now. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "Took you long enough, and you're very rude." Me. "Okay." Wow. Screw that guy. My manager was from Jamaica, this is important, and was helping me get my cash register monitor working again. This lady comes up and waits a good 5 minutes, even after we told her we were trying to fix the machine. I wasn't the only cashier open, but the other lady was older and a little slower. She started getting really upset, and he told her to calm down and wait a few more minutes. In his strong accent, she yells, "Okay, I want to talk to a manager, because I can't talk to someone who hardly speaks English." His English was perfect, but he just had an accent. He then looks at her and says, "I am the manager, ma'am," in the most monotone voice ever. And she says, "Oh my god, I'm never coming back here," in the most mad-off tone ever. Not the best story, but it was still funny. I used to do security patrols on banks, had a large BMW bike. Some frickwit cut me off one day, nearly causing an accident. I gave him the finger over the screen and let it go. 10 minutes later, I'm getting off my bike to go to one of my banks, and the same person, in a suit, comes screaming across the car park, yelling insults with, "Do you know who I am?" Me, "Nope." "I'm so-and-so, area manager of Australian supermarket." He was a manager of maybe 30 stores. Me, "Righto, mate," and a whatever I don't care look on my face, which seemed to irritate him even more. "I demand to talk to your manager." I gave him my business card, which he calls. I answer with, "Yeah, mate, what's up?" while staring at him, cue ranting and expletives as he storms off. Maybe too late. Here it goes. I worked as a resident director, aka the boss of the building for my university. Despite being in my 20s, I looked barely out of high school. Move in a day for all the freshmen. The usual stuff happens. Crying parents and students. People trying to move in items that are not allowed. A general crazy day. Nothing unusual yet. Cue to a mom with a typical "can I speak to your manager" body language and haircut. She walked up to my staff member and demands another room for her child. The mom yells, insults my staff. Finally, she is screaming for a manager. I walk up and introduce myself and ask her for her to tell me what's going on. The mom cannot believe her eyes. Me, this young man, was the manager. She insisted on getting the real manager. I pulled out my wallet and gave her my card with my name and title clearly printed and informed her that I was the real manager. She continued to huff and puff until she ran out of steam. Hours later, I got a knock on my door, and it was the mom. She apologized for her behavior and explained it was stressful moving their child away from home. Emotions got the best of her and thanked me for treating her with respect despite her not showing the same. Aw, I like this ending. I had someone picking a fight with me in a meeting, and I asked him, "Are you really sure you want to do this?" He said yes, because he thought I needed to be put in my place. It was a technical matter, in which I am considered an expert, so I calmly listened to him and systematically shredded his arguments. He was older than I am, and I thought his head would explode when he realized that I had him completely cornered at every point he tried to make. I couldn't tell him at the time, because it hadn't been officially released, but a new organization chart was supposed to be released the next day. The next morning, I called a meeting and showed the chart, and the fellow immediately slumped into his chair when he realized he would be reporting to me. I was on a call to a domestic at a trailer park. Every member of this family is a frequent flyer. It was enough of a situation that we had a handful of officers from my department as well as a pair of deputies on scene, with a rescue squad standing by in case of injuries. The mother of the family is shouting from the front steps, "Call the sheriff! We need deputies out here. This is an illegal arrest. You boys officers are breaking the law." The female deputy next to me looks over at her and says, "Ma'am, we are the deputies," as her partner is putting the cuffs on the suspect. I used to work at an arena where my mother was the head chef, and I managed the concession. All of the employees knew me as Mother's Name's Kid, and addressed me with the same level of respect, despite me not asking for it, simply because they loved her like a mother. We ended up with a new employee taking some of her shifts, and he walked in one day and immediately tried to tell me around. I turned around and said, "No, I think you'll do well manning the fryers tonight. Thanks," and continued what I was doing. He started to yell about how I couldn't tell him what to do, and he'd get me fired. Before I said, "I don't think I can fire myself," and he got what I meant. The slow realization that I was second in command was priceless, and he avoided me like the plague after that. I was never mean to anyone without reason, but I knew from his training shift that he was a colossal peen, and ended up being fired for looking at underage girls on his Instagram during work hours. I run a support service for people without a lawyer. My clients, for the most part, are incredibly grateful and brave people. They are faced with navigating incredibly difficult legal processes alone. I respect each of them for the difficulties they have to endure. Our service is limited in that we cannot provide legal advice. That will be important later. But some people just want the world to bend over backwards for their every whim. I had one client who was demanding that the court provide her with transport on the day of her hearing, over 100 miles. Whilst I knew this was not at all possible, I went out of my way to go and speak to the relevant people and try to make it happen. I informed her that, sorry, no, the court can't provide that for you, and I can't make it happen, as I don't work for the court. Furthermore, I wasn't able to answer her questions, as she was asking me to provide her with legal advice. She became increasingly aggressive and was accusing me of obstructing justice for her, and for discrimination. A, due to her not being British, and B, due to her disability. I remained calm as always, and tried to just make it clear that she was asking me to do things that I literally could not do. It came to a head when I became quite firm and told her that I couldn't do anything for her, and that I was going to have to put the phone down and get on with my other task. She goes silent, and then, in a curt voice, says those magic words, "Can I speak to the manager, please?" The smile on my face spread. I am the manager. I own the building that the company I'm part owner and operates out of. It's in a nice office park with about a dozen other similarly sized standalone office buildings. We have a dumpster that gets emptied twice a week, that sits behind, on the side of our building, that has a nice fence around it. The way it sits, the parking lot of another building is close to it. I'm ripping out carpet at my house, and each night run by work and dispose of some of it. We're not running production that week, so there's nothing in the dumpster. On the third and last night before trash comes the next day, I notice a guy smoking by his car at the other office. As I'm getting ready to leave, a car comes screeching up the side drive, puts his brights on, and yells at me to stay where I am. I pause, and it's the same guy, and starts yelling at me that he's calling the cops. He saw me dumping trash into the dumpster. I asked him what he cares about, and he said he's on special patrol for this company, the one I'm an owner of, and would be in charge of hiring anyone as it is, and I'm in violation and need to remain there. I asked him who he talked to, and he said I don't know his last name, but his name is Fred. We have never had a Fred work there. So he's blocking my exit, and I start hearing a siren. This guy says something like, "Here they come. Now you're screwed." So I just sat there another minute. In rolls a country brownie with his lights on. He comes strolling up and then says, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "Hey Andy, I'm not sure, but this guy here is trespassing on my property." His face at this point gets sheet white. No, I didn't press charges, even if you could, but I didn't see him around again. I don't know if he was confused, mentally challenged. He sure seemed to have a short fuse. Officer Andy did take his info though. I think more to scare the guy than anything else. The fact that you knew the officer really takes this to the next level. I used to be a department supervisor for a library. Basically, this meant I was third from the top in the system according to the org chart, and if my manager was gone, then I was in charge of the building. One day, a lady is in our department complaining about some bit of policy. Can't remember what, but think of an entitled suburban mom getting mad we don't bend policy for her. She finally demands to talk to my supervisor. When I won't budge, I smile, tell her that's fine, turn as though I'm going to get someone, but do a full twirl instead and hold out my hand. She looks at me like I'm nuts, and I introduced myself as the supervisor and heard she had a problem. The lady storms off to the front desk. A few minutes later, one of the workers there comes back with this lady, explains that she had a problem and wanted to talk to the person in charge, which was me that day because my boss was out. The look on her face when the front desk worker pulled her into the office to talk to the person in charge, and I was sitting there, grinning, was delicious. I explained that we still wouldn't be changing our system policy just for her. Have a nice day. Only time I've ever been able to do that, but it was fun. Not me, but one of my best friends really made it at a young age already. He was in the hotel business as a night receptionist during college, became F&B manager, moved to assistant general manager, became general manager of one hotel, of two hotels, and then went on to the board of directors of a hotel chain, mid-sized. He was something like a director of sales, so had to deal with customer complaints occasionally if it got high enough, since the chain was not that big. Next to his job as sales director, he was also the general manager of a smaller hotel that served as his office as well. One day, he is planning on heading home around 5 p.m. when he gets notified that the night receptionist is ill and won't make it, and the day receptionist is leaving for a 2-week holiday after his shift ends. Mind you, he was only 32, or 33 at the time, and has quite the baby face. Of course, somewhere during the evening, someone shows up for a late check-in. Hotel is fully booked due to some conference nearby. The late arrival has no reservation. Tough luck, but no, he is 100% sure that he has a reservation. My friend checks the system, and indeed, he does have a reservation for the next day night, booked online about 5 minutes ago. My friend explains that he is more than welcome the next day, but that he cannot help him this evening, and tries to give him other options nearby. The dude is not having this, and is accusing my friend of being at fault. He has a reservation, so he should get a room. As these things go, he asks to speak to the manager. Now my friend can be a real prick when he is done with your crap, so he pulls the old, "I will get the duty manager for you," walks through a door, turns around, walks in the reception again, and shakes the hand of the guest, presenting himself as the duty manager. Of course, dude throws a fit and gets even madder. "I want to speak to the real manager." My friend shows him the board that says, "General Manager," friend's name, and asks if he should get the general manager, Mr. friend's name. Dude says he better damn well should do that. Of course, my friend happily repeats his trick with the door and comes back, pointing at his name tag and explaining that he is the GM of the hotel. Dude storms out shouting that he will write a complaint about this. Now, stuff like this has happened before, and most of the time, it ends here. But this guy went as far as really writing a complaint, and beginning said complaint with demanding that the complaint be sent to a higher management immediately and not handled by the GM of the hotel. So of course, the complaint ends up at the desk of the sales director of the chain, who of course is my friend all the same. He actually wrote him back a nice reply explaining that the hotel really was fully booked and that the guest by mistake chose the wrong date. Of course it was no mistake. Just a guy hoping that creating a fuzz would land him a room. That the hotel was very sorry, and he gave him a 10% discount on his next booking. All this was signed by my friend, the receptionist, duty manager, general manager, director of sales of this hotel chain. He has so many stories of crazy guests and employees, he can tell endless stories about it. I have had an office job for ages and cannot imagine how it must be to work in the front office in jobs like these, which must be a combination of totally boring and crazy town. Last year, I was working as the manager of a coffee kiosk. Let's call it Starfrix, inside a store at a national grocery chain. It's literally my last day on the job, so I am completely out of craps to give. My direct supervisor loved me, so my references are set, and I'm just throwing caution to the wind. You smiled at me? Screw it. Have a free drink. Your children are well behaved? Free pastries. Who cares? And then, drink bitch comes in an hour before I clock out. This insufferable pain in the ass orders her drink, then has me remake it, and I'm not exaggerating here. 4 times. Finally, she says, well, it's not quite right, but I'm in a hurry. I want a refund. Y'all, I made that drink perfectly, all 4 times. She's just trying to scam us. I look her dead in the eyes and inform her that we don't give refunds when drinks are made correctly. She storms out in a huff. And about 45 minutes later, I get a phone call. I was in your store earlier today, and your barista was rude to me. Well, ma'am, we have several baristas working today. Can you describe them? Bearded man with a shaved head. Ma'am, that would be me. And I'm sorry you thought me not tolerating your scam was rude. I want to speak to the manager. I am the manager. And I hung up on her. To this day, I have no idea what she did after that and who she yelled at, but I completely don't care. That 30-second interaction made the entire job worth it. I used to manage a vape shop. We would get unruly customers all the time. Lots of cheap assholes. This one guy comes in looking for a new tank. I show him our 3 most popular tanks. Too expensive. He then points at the tank on my discount wall. The tank was a first generation, and it's about 4 years old. So I was very upfront with him. Yes sir, it is a cheap tank, but I will let you know it's not a very good tank. It's one of the first tanks in the industry, and it's not great. He insisted on buying it, so I sold it to him, and let him know, alrighty sir, just be aware that we do not allow returns on tanks, so if you don't like it, we can't take it back. Cue 3 days down the road. He comes back annoyed and moaning that I sold him a bunk tank. I said, yes sir, I did, but I told you it was a bad tank, and you still opted to buy it, against my warnings. I told you we won't take it back. He threw a massive fit and insisted on speaking to the manager, and this was after insulting me and cussing at me multiple times. I smiled and said, okay, and walked back to the office. Then I came back out and said, I heard you needed a manager. Oh, he was mad. Give me a different manager. Sir, I'm the only manager. Please leave my store. You are no longer welcome here. There were other managers, a district manager and a regional manager, but I had full autonomy in these matters, and they'd be mad if I had bothered them with this crap. His final words were, you haven't seen the last of me. I responded, that's okay. The police station is about 400 yards down the street. If I see you here again, they will be called. And he just angrily stormed out to never be seen again. Sorry, bro. I straight up told you not to buy that tank. You insisted because you're a cheap ass. You get what you pay for. I used to work at an ice cream shop, and on a night when we were short-staffed, worked the line scooping ice cream with my team. I was helping 2 women who were kinda standoffish, and I was doing my best to make conversation and be friendly, but it was a little awkward. I had my customer service smile plastered to my face, and I knew I was a bit much, but wanted to try to keep the energy up for my team. I got their scoops and sent them down to the register to pay, and then was pulled back to handle a question from my team. As soon as I got to the back, the person on the register said, there is someone who wants to speak to you. Knowing we were short-staffed, I took a deep breath because it was going to be someone complaining about the wait or something like that. I walked out, and it's the 2 women I just served. Uh-oh. They look at me and say, you're the manager? I put on my biggest customer service smile and say, yes, I'm so sorry. Is there something I can help you with? Oh, well, this seems silly, but we really wanted to commend you for being so bright and cheery. When we were waiting in line, we saw you being so friendly with everyone. So, thanks? It was super awkward, so I laughed and thanked them, and stood there awkwardly giggling and smiling. because I didn't know what else to do until they walked away. I went back in the back and did dishes or something because I couldn't handle talking to people for at least 10 minutes. It was a roller coaster of emotion.